Hey YouTubers, so I'm just gonna make this video kind of real quick. It's not really it's kind of like an impromptu video or something like that. Honestly, I'm kind of a little brain dead right now. I just got done with my first week of law school, guys. My very first week. I even have like a nightcap to celebrate the occasion, and while I really should be in bed right now, I just felt kind of the need to express my opinion about this one particular subject when it comes to Bleach and the ending of Bleach, as it were. And right now, I'm not going to talk about the special announcement about the movie that everyone's been talking about. I'm not going to talk about that because I feel like I might want to make a video about that, or my thoughts or speculations about that later. I also kind of do still want to talk about exactly what I would do for a Bleach like trilogy of movie adaptation, like an animated movie trilogy to kind of tell the 1,000-Year Blood War arc in one particular movie. Excuse me. And I feel like the one thing I do want to kind of talk about when it comes to Bleach's ending, because I know a lot of people today have expressed their emotions, and when I say today, it is Thursday when I'm recording this. You'll probably be seeing this on Saturday, but I do want to kind of talk about one kind of time, I guess. You know, I know a lot of people have been expressing all their emotions about this. A lot of people really come to be very disappointed with the ending, or how rushed this whole series has been over the last couple weeks. And we're not necessarily getting the ending that we wanted or ever hoped for. And when I say that, if you've been watching my channel, if you've just stumbled this on, I don't want to give off the impression that I have been a diehard Bleach fan from the very beginning. No, in fact, I've been kind of a Bleach fan since the beginning, or a little bit before 2016. Something that I know a lot of people are really kind of emotionally involved with this. I mean, the whole series has been out for 15 years now. People have been reading it for 10, 12 years now, at least in the States, and then people in Japan have been following it ever since the beginning. So obviously, the amount of emotion, the amount of anger and everything that came from this, either with the shipping problems of, Ichigo and Orihime, or Renji and Rukia, and the offspring thereof. I can't really speak to that, honestly. I don't feel like I have a personal stake into it as much as a lot of other people. Me personally, I do like how it kind of ended up. I like the pairings. I like the ending for the most part. Rushed or not, I thought it was really well handled. And as long as we actually get to a point where we're actually seeing someone like Kubo come out and, just a little bit explain more what he was going for, I don't think we need a continuation of the manga, even though I've actually said I would really like one in the past. I would. Don't get me wrong with that. I really would. And if, like I said, I won't talk very much about this movie, but the movie, if it comes out, it will be kind of cool. And, if that can spark interest again in all of this madness, and, we can either get the anime back or something from that, would be really kind of cool. But that's not what this video is about. Because I've been following, not Bleach, but, excuse me, I'm thirsty, and it's been a long week, excuse me, but it's been a long, not that it's been a long week, I've been following a whole bunch of series, and it's not just Bleach, it's not anime even related, it's just a whole lot of videos. I did a video with D-Free a couple weeks ago about how kind of revolutionary it was for something like Dragon Ball, which I mostly cover on this channel, but something like Dragon Ball in the 90s to come out and be like kind of a serialized television show in the 90s. I mean, that was unheard of. The 90s, the 80s, the late 80s or something, the stuff I remember as a kid. It was just kind of unheard of. I mean, I remember back when HBO started airing The Sopranos. And one of the reasons Sopranos actually took off and was such a huge hit was because, holy crap, this show is kind of a serialized show. And, you go back and watch that show, it really isn't. But, The Sopranos is like the serialized show that blew up, that just gained audiences because, there became like a cheap alternative way to catch up on every single season, and people were willing to follow storylines, however, intangible they might be. So HBO and Sopranos and all that, they were really pioneers on that, at least in the States or in America. But things like Dragon Ball, things like manga and anime were doing that already, because, by virtue of being part of a manga. So what am I talking about with this? Well, be it The Sopranos, Dexter, How I Met Your Mother, any type of show that you think, whether it's episodic or serial or has serial elements and still an episodic show, something like How I Met Your Mother or The Office or something like that. I have seldom approached or been a part of any type of fan base. Another one I talk about a lot on my channel, actually, before I get more into this, the Saw franchise. But as I say, I have seldom come across a series that I consider an absolute perfection. And by that I really mean when you go in and you start watching the show at the beginning, you kind of get a feel for the characters and everything, and you get this idea of where they're going, how they're going to get there. When the show ends, you have this idea that whether you could do it better or not, there's just that lingering concept of it couldn't have been done any other way. And whether I've watched a show or not, I personally, I like to say I've seen 3 shows in my entire life, 3 or 4 shows, in which I think are absolute perfection. And I think, and I've said them before sometime on this channel at some point, or, with a collab or someone, that Breaking Bad was absolute perfection. I don't think, no one can tell me that show, it has its ups and downs. Maybe the last season wasn't as good as it could have been. But when that show ends and how that show progressed, no one can tell me that show was anything more than it could or even was. Absolute perfection. Same thing with a show like Steins Gate. I was floored by that show. Just something that was completely revolutionary to me in terms of just like the amount of story and everything that was kind of thrown at me. And then another one that's also a little divisive amongst fans, and I think it's good to be divisive. Everyone has their preference, but Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica was for me, despite all of its problems, just I can look over everything. I feel like that is the utmost. It is close enough for me to become to consider it to be perfection in terms of from beginning to end. It grew on me. The characters developed. I don't think it could have ended any other way, and I was very happy with the ending. And the 4th one, I would say, I really can't count this because the story didn't end, but if you've never played the Legacy of Kain video games, even if it's hard to play them now because they're much older games, you should go back and watch them. They're all on YouTube. You can kind of find the story elsewhere and stuff. If you're willing to watch Let's Plays and kind of figure out what that story was, I greatly recommend it. It is just the most epic. You get what you get out of it, really. You can follow that story. It does time travel right. It's very hard to do time travel right, and you might notice there was 2 time travel series on this. I feel like time travel series are really awesome. I'd really like to do another video about them because I just got done watching another one, another movie I might talk about later in another video, or exactly why time travel movies are great, or stories in general, not just movies. But back to the point, I don't necessarily think that most series have good endings. Not even ones that I've really kind of followed for a long time. I feel like when we watch movies, when we watch television series, and when we watch or play video games, or even there are multiple parts, multiple kind of parts of a story, and you have hope and faith that each individual element, each individual installment that you are watching is leading up to a particular end game that will be satisfying, that will tie up all these loose ends and all this concept of where you're going and where you're going to get to in any of these series. And I don't think that that's actually a thing. I mean, I know that we have faith, and I know that creators come in and say, we know where we're going. We know exactly how this series is going to end. And I completely understand that. As a content creator myself, I think that that's a truism. When you create a story, you think, I have a beginning, middle, and end to the story. I know where I'm going. And usually you can infer you know where it's going around, the first couple of chapters, movies, episodes or something. You can see kind of what progression as soon as the characters are developed and expressed. But at the same time, when you have something like Bleach, especially something like Bleach, because a lot of shows, a lot of stories don't get to have a continuous run for 15 years. Think about that. 15 years. There's a lot of stuff to develop, and there's a lot of time. There's a lot of filler. A lot of people love Bleach, but you got to admit, the pace on that manga, the pace on anything really, the pace on any kind of manga that goes on for that long, sometimes it's just bitter. It's just, you have to swallow all that stuff down in order to get to the parts that you really like. And personally, I feel like if you like Bleach, you should have liked the last couple chapters, whether you thought they were rushed or not. Obviously, it wasn't Kubo's style, but even still, holy crap. A lot happened. It was kind of fun. It was a fun read. But at the same time, I feel like when you're watching or reading or any of these stories, you're kind of going through them and you're thinking, yeah, I understand there's a end point, but they have to keep something going, especially something that's so long, like Bleach or Dragon Ball or, Naruto or anything. There is an end game, but at the same time, we're watching this stuff and they're kind of coming up with it as they go along. And I know some of them are really good at tying their stuff back. One Piece does it. Bleach did it. Naruto did it for a little bit. Dragon Ball just completely ignores most things, honestly. But at the same time, kind of that they are planning something. They have ideas for the future and they're planting seeds for all of this stuff. But at the same time, I know I keep repeating myself here, but at the same time, we're kind of going towards this never-ending story concept. And then when that story has to end, when you've kind of taken yourself on this journey, and for most shows like Bleach, like Naruto, Dragon Ball, Fairy Tail, One Piece, all this other stuff, I can almost certainly guarantee you that the ending will never be as satisfying as the journey, because these long-form stories are never about the ending. It's always about the journey. Most storytelling is. We put so much emphasis on how a story ends because we want so much meaning. We want everything to kind of be explained to us. And honestly, I feel like that's not even an issue for most things. Stuff like this, stuff that goes on for years and years and over a decade and a half. It's about the journey. You have so much to kind of see and interpret and think about. I think for this particular issue, or this particular issue about how Bleach ended, or how Bleach was rushed, and all the people ganging up on Shonen Jump, or all the people ganging up on Kubo for going too fast, or whatever kind of bureaucracy that kind of created this kind of clusterfuck of a situation, I honestly think it's for the best of the fandom. And what do I mean by that? Honestly, it's kind of a little hard to explain, and that's kind of why it's taken me this long to talk about it. I've already talked about serialized television. The journey is more important than the end. All this type of stuff. Stories that have an ending in mind, but they have to take the time to get there. They have to kind of fill the time to get there, because it's like, yeah, that ending I could get there, but I don't want to. So what is this all kind of leading up to? Well, it's something like Dragon Ball. Honestly, in my opinion, those kind of 4 series that I've talked about, those perfectly molded, completely perfect series at the same time, while they're amazing, they're also kind of forgettable. And I know a lot of people can sit there and go, some of the best television ever is Breaking Bad or The Wire or something. And yes, you do talk about those in passing, and you're like, wasn't that awesome? Yes, that was awesome. That was incredible. But at the same time, there's not much to talk about outside of that. You can break it down and you can figure out exactly why it's brilliant, but there's no kind of discussion, or you don't run into most people will sit there and go, yeah, it was awesome, or haven't seen it yet, or anything like that. But if you run into someone who goes, no, it was terrible, and here's why, that's an interesting discussion. It's an interesting argument or debate or whatever you want to talk about, because there is kind of this loose interpretation of what something is. And when something becomes so universally beloved and accepted, people gravitate towards that as the overall concept, whether they've seen or experienced the issue at all. Is Dragon Ball good? It doesn't matter. I mean, whether you've seen it or not, it's so big that even its fandom is kind of sitting around going, well, yeah, like all this is really cool, all this matters, but none of it matters. But even talking about Dragon Ball, as big and as popular as Dragon Ball is, in a recent study, I think back in 2014, they did a major poll for people who watch television, kind of interpreting the worst television endings of all time. The worst television endings, like the top 100 worst and best television endings of all time. Dragon Ball Z, not Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball Z was number 2. Dragon Ball Z was number 2 worst ending interpreted by fans of all time in that particular poll. And if I find a link to it, it will be in the description below. You can see exactly where people put all their endings and stuff, and you can go and interpret for yourself. But think about that. Dragon Ball was and that was the end of the original series. Like, that was how Toriyama originally interpreted the series to end. It ended. GT wasn't canon. None of the movies were canon. Super wasn't even a remote possibility at that point. It was over 20 years away. Or around 20 years away. And yet people gravitated towards that series. It's not just because that it was an amazing series. It was that it was so inconsistent and it was so divisive that people needed to talk about it. People needed to discuss it. People needed to be like, wait, I thought this was good. No, I thought this was bad. It wasn't universally accepted that Dragon Ball was amazing, that it was a perfectly sculpted story and everything. I think if that is the case, then you have a lot of people sitting there going, oh yeah, I saw that. Or, oh yeah, I know about that and everything. But they don't actually take the time to watch it. But if you have a lot of people in a lot of communities going around going, yeah, that was terrible. No, that was awesome. Man, you really have to check this out. No, dude, don't ever check that out. That's terrible. That's completely awful. Then you kind of want to get out there and see for yourself, right? You don't necessarily want to believe one interpretation over the other. And you might make that point really easily in the first couple chapters, the first couple episodes or something, but you'll at least figure out for yourself, and that will help build whatever fandom there is. It's like the DC movies and the complete like war over the critics and the viewers. In my opinion, it's like, these people love it, these people hate it. I have to kind of go see it for myself, and I have to interpret it for myself. And do I like the movie or not? It doesn't matter, because I still went and saw the movie. I still gave them my money. I'm still kind of invested in all of this that they're kind of creating. And I feel like if Bleach had, gone on for another couple years and Kubo was able to kind of completely tell his story in the way that he wanted to, despite all the flaws, if it had an amazing ending, then what would be the point? I mean, I'm completely serious. What would be the freaking point of going in and watching it after someone goes, you have to do this, it's amazing, everyone considers this the absolute pinnacle? Well, that's true, but it's also a 15-year-long series. I mean, that's a lot of stuff for someone to kind of catch up on if they have even the remote interest of doing it. But when you have a lot of people going, you know what, that was an amazing ending, that was an amazing series, you should go watch it. And then a lot of other people who are right now kind of sitting there going, complete shit, utter shit, I won't even kind of touch this, you shouldn't touch this, this is complete dog shit. Then at the same time, you want to go out and go, which option is best? Like, what should I believe? Maybe I should kind of go and see for myself. And at the same time, the ambiguity of exactly what happened or exactly what someone's thing is over someone else's, or, the Bankai issue, whether who should have ended up with who and all that other stuff is still up for debate. And it will cause a whole lot of, interaction and fan speculation and stuff to come. It will something to actually help the fandom and the series live on just its normal lifespan. Something that a perfect series just doesn't do. I'm saying, like you talk a lot about Breaking Bad and stuff. Who do you know who has talked about Breaking Bad at length in terms of what it could have done best or what it could have done worse or something in the last couple of years? It was huge when it was going on, and then it was universally beloved, accepted. It's great. Put it in the pile, and let's move on. And at the exact same time, Dexter was ending, and Dexter was complete dog crap, dog shit, dog crap. I don't know what I'm saying. Dexter was complete shit, and I found myself in my kind of circles and everything talking way more about Dexter than I have about Breaking Bad, because I have to sit around and I have to kind of explain why I like the show, even though everyone else hates it. And I've gotten people to watch the show because I like it so much, and everyone else hates it and they have to go in and see for themselves. Now, whether what they interpret from that is one thing or another, but at least it continues to build the franchise. I'm not saying that Breaking Bad is completely stale or, anything like that. Obviously, Better Call Saul has really helped in that matter, kept it relevant. But I'm just saying, that series itself, it's in the books. It's amazing. We all accept it as amazing. Let's just move on. And I feel like that type of mentality isn't great for creating people who actually go in and look at it themselves. I think that type of mentality is for people who go, oh, this is a universally accepted topic. Yeah, totally. I watched Bleach. I read all of Bleach. Yeah, why wouldn't I? It's classic. Yeah, I totally did that. Or I watched Godfather. I watched Godfather 2 and 3. They're classics. Why wouldn't I? Raging Bull. Why wouldn't I? And it just keeps going on and on and on. Obviously, you did because, your social peer groups, your society, the society tells you to, because you should, because it's complete learning education. Now, Bleach is kind of like that already, but I'm just saying, and you understand, at this point, I'm really rambling, but at the same time, I'm just kind of trying to say, if I've said it at all, is ambiguity and lack of perfection, even the rushed schedule of Bleach, is ultimately good for the franchise, the fan base, and everyone involved, because it's something for us to latch on to and kind of interpret for ourselves and to argue about, ultimately argue about. We can become as angry as we need to. As long as we're arguing, it keeps the conversation alive. It keeps the series going, and it keeps the information there. People will know about Bleach 10 years from now, and not just because it's an amazing manga or anime, however you want to define it. They will know about it because there will still be discussions about what should have happened versus what happened and everything else, regardless of how, like, the bureaucracy or whatever Shonen Jump did to Kubo or Kubo did to Shonen Jump or something. Those arguments will always be there, but people will always be discussing exactly what happened, in the entire story, and what could have happened, what should have happened, and what it might have been going for. Lots of what ifs and everything, because nothing is clear. Nothing is clear for this last one. Nothing is clear for the entire story. So those are my overall thoughts. I know this was a long video, and if you've liked this, please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. Please show me some love. Please show the channel some love. If you like this, I'm going to continue doing Bleach topics. Of course, it's one of my favorite mangas and animes at this point. I'm going to keep doing these kind of discussions and doing whatever theories that I might have. Obviously, going forward, I have a couple that I would really like to get out sometime soon, but I really need to kind of think them over and kind of analyze them a little bit more before I get them to you. At the same time, if you like Dragon Ball content, please go make sure to check out the DBates. Those are really funny. We try to have a whole lot of fun in there. You'll hopefully everyone who watches that laughs. All of them are just almost all of them are just completely hysterical. We got some serious ones in there, and at the same time, guys, go out and check out the Suican Half Hours. Those are hysterical. Me and Kanji have we just tear it up and have a whole lot of fun doing that stuff. The real theories for Dragon Ball mostly, but hopefully other things going down the road. And open questions. Any kind of huge question I have that I really want the people who watch my channel and subscribe to me or just like my content in general. If I have a question, I'm going to put it out there and I want you guys to answer it in your most sincere way possible, because I don't really know everything either, and I really kind of want to hear from you guys every now and then about what you think about this, that, or the other. So anyway, guys, like I said, please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section below, and I'll catch you all in the next Bleach video. Bye.